Welcome to the Wonder With Me podcast, where I, Dr. Tonia Winchester, invite you to get curious with me about all things mind-body healing, especially how we can unlock the incredible healing power of our unconscious minds, so that we can all get out of stress mode and go back into healing mode. We'll talk about how you can easily create healthy, sustainable self-care habits so that you can calm your mind, sleep deeply, wake rested, and enjoy happy, energized days. Ultimately, so that you can make a bigger difference in your well-being and that of your family and the world around you. These casual chats are for educational purposes only and don't constitute a therapeutic relationship. With all that said, let's get this episode underway. Come wonder with me. Hey there, welcome back to another episode of the Wonder With Me podcast. I am your hostess, Dr. and/or Coach Tonia Winchester. This is the place where we take little life moments and turn them into big life lessons, and this is episode number 48. 3 myths about exercise that are likely keeping you overweight. Isn't it hard to sift through all of the information out there? What's good? What's not good? What's right? What's not right? What's helpful? What's not helpful when it comes to our health and our bodies? In the age of information, it can be completely overwhelming to find what's actually good and true. And that's because what's good and right and true is going to be quite different for a lot of people. However, there are some common mistakes that people make when it comes to their health that we can easily sort out today. And I'm specifically speaking about exercise and activity here. With all of that said, let's get into it. Let's get wondering. More often than I can count recently, as people comment on my physical body, because it's a lot smaller than it used to be. I've shared this story many times. I'll link up some previous podcast episodes if you want to get the skinny. The main scoop is episode number 3, and there'll be some other ones that link back to this. So the most common thing I hear is, wow, you're looking great. They ask what I'm doing. I share what I did. I got the trauma out of my body, and then I have good habits. And then very commonly they say, well, all the dancing that you're doing must be keeping you really fit. And I shake my head, and they look at me like I'm crazy and an idiot. And I say, frankly, dance is mostly just standing around. And then they look even more confused because dancing is dancing. Dancing isn't standing around. Dancing is dancing. But dancing at the level that I dance at, this is particularly in salsa dance and an Angolan dance called kizomba, is commonly me and my dance partner standing around figuring things out. What about like this? How does it feel if we do it this way? What are the options if we do it like this? It's mostly standing around or watching videos or analyzing our own videos. From time to time, it is more active, but even then, the level of activity isn't something that I attribute to contributing to my fitness. I know this is a little bit of a mind boggler. I'm going to keep talking about this because I've got subjective and objective information to share with you. Now, 2 to 3 times a month, I go to what's called a social dance, where for 3 to 4 hours, I'm dancing pretty much non-stop with several different partners at the social. And even that, I don't attribute to contributing to my fitness, because that type of long extended cardio has some interesting physiological impacts that I'm going to get to shortly here. And so if we were to just take these things, the mostly standing around, watching videos, analyzing videos, trying things out, experimenting dance practice, and then this maybe once a week or maybe once every 2 weeks more extended cardio dance, that's not what is keeping my body fit. So they say to me, wow, it's your dancing that must be helping you lose so much weight. And I shake my head. How I eat plays a big role, and probably the biggest role, to be honest. But I do a lot of weight-bearing exercises, push-ups, squats, burpees, lunges, using free weights just in my home studio here. 3 times a week, 17 minutes. Thankfully, science, exercise physiology is showing us that the cardio-dependent days of the 80s and 90s and even into the 2000s are no longer valuable for most people's physiologies. when we change what we're focusing on and stop focusing on the number of calories burnt in a workout or even the number of calories consumed through food, and start focusing on how we can shift our hormones through the right activity, through the right foods, that's when metabolism improves and we start to see people release weight and create leaner, fitter body compositions. And that's why I love the metabolism plan as an eating program, which I've talked about a few times in the last several weeks, because it's a way of eating that changes your biochemistry so that your system is going back into healing mode. It takes the inflammation out of the system so that your hormones can balance. And yes, I mean reproductive hormones, but primarily your thyroid hormones, stress hormones, and then other hormones like insulin, leptin, and ghrelin. I'm not going to go too much into those latter ones today, but I could another time. When we're eating reactive foods and the body's inflamed hormonally, the thyroid function shuts down and stress hormones go up, cortisol, which means insulin can go up and our cells become less sensitive to insulin. We start to see insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes. So when we discover what foods are reactive for us and take them out of our diet and the inflammation goes down, we see a lot of hormonal healing happening. Lynn Janae Rositas, in her geniusness, has figured out that we can use certain objective points of measurement, aka the weight on the scale, and something called basal body temperature, to within 24 hours determine if not only a food is good for us and friendly for us, but if activity is good and friendly for us also. This is really important to note, and also brings us to the first myth of exercise. Long bouts of steady state cardio are not the way to a healthy body for most people. And that's because of this simple reason. After about 20 to 30 minutes of, say, running or biking or swimming, it increases your stress hormones. Those activities act like a stressor, shut down the metabolism, and increase inflammation in the body. Commonly, when people do wrong forms of exercise for their physiologies, such as this, and this is just an example, I mean, there are going to be bodies that do okay with this. The majority, I would say, no. Their basal body temperatures will go down in the morning. Basal body temperature is your temperature first thing upon rising, your baseline body temperature, which is going to fluctuate throughout the course of the day. But at the beginning of the day, it can tell us how the thyroid function is responding to what you did or didn't do the day before. So myth number 1 is that cardio is most likely not the way to get a fit, healthy, lean, trim body. If that's what you want, of course. Myth number 2 is it doesn't need to take a long time. And when you get a sense of what your body wants, which is often much less than people think, it frees up a lot of time. I'm going to try to track down the reference, but there was a study that I read a long time ago, and this is just one of many that proved the same hypothesis to be true, that participants in this study were given either 1 hour of steady state type cardio activities like I just mentioned to do, or I'm not even sure if it was a full hour of weight resistance based training with either body weight or free weights or gym weights. And markers of metabolism were measured right after the workouts and 24 hours after and 48 hours after. And the group that worked with the weights saw a dramatic, I think it was over 50% increase in metabolic activity 2 days later, versus the cardio group only had that increase immediately after the exercise. So wouldn't it be awesome if you could do less and get a better benefit? This is what this means to exercise hormonally. So myth number 1, cardio is likely not the way. Myth number 2 is it does not need to take a lot of time. Less is often more. And myth number 3 is that it doesn't need to be every day. Less, again, is often more. But how do you know? How do you know? Well, I highly suggest getting Lynn Janae Rosita's book, The Metabolism Plan, because she teaches you exactly how to do this in her book. Going back to this topic of salsa dancing, I was very excited to start testing my salsa. Dancing, that is, not the sauce. I'm very much allergic to the sauce. Okay, so let's look at the data. Here's what I discovered. So the first time I went salsa dancing after starting and tracking, yep, sure enough, my weight went up the next day and my basal body temperature went down. Inflammation went up, it was reactive, and metabolism, thyroid function went down. Okay, the next one. Yep, same result. That's number 2. Let's try again for a third time. Number 3 or 4 days later. Yep, same thing. Every time I've done any kind of salsa dancing that is over 30 minutes, my thyroid function goes down, reflected by my basal body temperature going down, and my inflammation, reflected by my weight, goes up. Dance is not the thing that is keeping me fit or getting me fit. Now, that's not to say that it may be for you. I'm just speaking from my own body's experience and physiology recorded with all of this data that I've been gathering. I have all this information that I have access to, and it is a very interesting thing because even though I want my body to be as well and healthy as possible, I also need those things true in my heart and my head. And dancing is by far my most favorite activity to do, which is why I do it so much. Am I going to stop knowing what I know? No. I talked in the last episode, number 47, about having things that meet criteria, that check all my boxes. And dancing does that for me. It's about connection. It's about fun, playfulness, creativity, listening, expression, presence. I've talked about dance being my spiritual space before, and I believe it was episode 20 where I talked about, because all of the things that I just mentioned in dance are how I get into flow state or my spiritual space, like I just mentioned. Everything I do in my life is actually a driver to get me to that place. So what this means, knowing what I know now, that dance can actually be, from a physical perspective, inflammatory for me, lower my metabolism, and I'm not willing to stop. But what I am willing to do is make things as easy and as gentle as possible for my body, so I can use what I have gained from 60 days now on this metabolism plan, eating program, and buffer the effects of that exercise, that type of exercise, the dancing, with very low reactive foods on the day of and the day after, and making sure I get adequate rest. I'm adequately hydrated. So I can make an adult decision about this with consciousness, with intention. I know the consequence of doing X, Y, and Z. I'm willing to accept those consequences, and also I'm willing to do these things that will mitigate those consequences as much as possible. And so that's what I've been playing with recently, is what foods can I eat the day of or the day after that will prevent the aggravated impact and create a neutral, or better than neutral, effect. This is very empowering, and I have choice, and so do you. These things don't take long to figure out. If you're finding yourself stuck with weight that just won't shift, with low energy, with crappy craps and moody moods and disrupted sleeps, you may be eating something or many things or doing activity in a way that's actually hindering your system from healing. So spend 20 days and find out. Give yourself an opportunity to make adult choices instead of not having a clue about the consequences or wondering about the consequences. Just find out. Last episode, I talked about thinking into doing, and this is a great example of how to do just that. So let's review steady state cardio, not necessarily the way to optimal health and well-being. We're not looking at calories in, calories out. We're looking to change the hormonal activity that comes as a result of eating certain foods and moving your body in a certain way. Myth number 2 is it doesn't need to take a long time. And myth number 3 is it doesn't need to be a lot. Less is more on both occasions. So I hope this was helpful for you if you've been curious about any of these topics, about what is good, what is right, what is helpful. And of course, that is going to always be individual, but these are going to be some guidelines for you and some information about how to start to assess these things for you personally through your weight, through your basal body temperature. More information, of course, in the Metabolism Plan book, and regain control of some of these mysteries in your life. And if you are finding yourself stuck in any kind of pattern that you don't want to be in, I'm happy to help you shift the internal thinking and feeling around that so that behaviors become easier, habits that are healthy become enjoyable, and that you end up creating the results that you want in your health and your life. So with all of that being said, I'm going to end this episode here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I look forward to connecting in the next episode of the Wonder With Me podcast. And in the meantime, may you choose to make all of your dreams come true. Hey, thanks for wondering with me today. If you've got something good out of this, then please forward this episode along to the people who you know could benefit. Be sure to subscribe, and if you're really keen, you leaving us a rating and review helps us to help more people, so thank you in advance for that. If you're wanting more insights about how you can leverage the power of your unconscious mind to go back into healing mode, head on over to toniawinchester.com, where you'll find my book, Breakthrough the Insomnia Cycle, and other helpful ideas. Thanks again, and we'll connect on the next episode of the Wonder With Me podcast. In the meantime, may you choose to make all of your dreams come true.